Hi, I'm Tamara Baker, Healthcare CTO of Zscaler,
And I'm Stephen Hajny, Healthcare Technology Evangelist at Zscaler.
and we have trust issues. Do you have cybersecurity anxieties? If you do, you're in the right place.
Tamara is a former fighter pilot. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. We've learned that the best defense starts with knowing exactly how your opponent thinks.
In the cockpit or on the mat, you don't get second chances, and the same is true in cybersecurity. That's why we follow one rule. Think like a fighter pilot, defend like a black belt.
On each episode of this show, we and our guests from leading health systems across the country offer up practical strategies for inventing zero trust, assuming every user, device, and network connection could be a potential threat.
We'll also discuss the very latest in cyber trends, so consider this your cybersecurity training session.
Because we have trust issues, and we think you do too.
So strap in, stay sharp, and let's get started.
Hi, I'm Stephen Hajny, and welcome to We Have Trust Issues. Now, I know we have covered AI a bunch of times already on the show. I know you're probably sick of hearing about AI. It seems to be everywhere, even in people's toasters, from what I saw at CES. So we're going to do some more episodes, though, on AI because it's ever evolving and it's a continuous concern for hospitals and health systems. And it's easily one of the hottest things to talk about today because of how broad it is as a scope. So this episode, we're talking a holistic and practical look at AI in healthcare, security, not governance. We're talking to a fantastic hospital CISO to learn how he evaluates AI, what he looks for, what use cases hospital teams are asking for the most, and what holds up when the hype meets reality. I am joined by Jim Bowie, Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer at Tampa General Hospital. Jim, welcome to the show. For those who may not know you, give us just a quick overview of your role over at TGH and what your team is responsible for.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I appreciate you having me on. I'm the CISO. It's actually a company called Florida Health Science Center. It's the parent organization for what people in the Tampa area know as Tampa General Hospital, but it's also 5 other hospitals and multiple surgery centers and clinics across the state of Florida. Responsible for network security, cyber operations, identity governance, identity protection, all the GRC functions, and those are the 4 teams I have.
Awesome. Oh, great to have you on. As always, tradition is we like to kick things off about asking about trust issues. And we've had everything from Nate Kuchar over at University of Vermont talk about bladesmithing. We've had Tamara talk about trusting backpacks and jumping out of airplanes, which still blows my mind. Do you have a story, though, of a time that you had trust issues? It could be personal, it could be professional, just a cool story that you'd love to tell the folks.
I don't know about cool. My biggest component to trust issues comes from when I was in law enforcement. When we get in car chases, if I was driving, I was good, I was happy. When we get into car chases, not that there's, or you should always, you don't have to chase everything. It was usually violent criminals. But great. I went to all the training. I took thousands of hours of driving training to do all that. It was great. And then sometimes I get in the car, or happen to be in the passenger side of the car, and I would turn into a giant screaming baby when someone else was driving in a car chase. And so I ended up learning to trust, obviously, my partner. He was great, but most of the time he actually was like, "You're just better at this, so you drive. I'll do all the other stuff." I'm like, "Fine." But it was a good way to early on, before I was in not-for-profit healthcare cybersecurity, to assess risk in your third-party vendor, in which case would be your driver of your chase car at that point. But yeah, it's going from super cool, having fun, to crying like a baby if I wasn't driving. So those are my trust
I feel like
issues.
that's my wife. My
Yeah.
wife is the same way, right? Like when I'm
Yeah.
driving, it's immediately I am the worst driver on the face of the planet. But yet when I see her do the same thing, it's she's the best driver. So no.
Yeah. You would think that would apply to my wife too. She knows, like, I go out and I race cars and I track cars and I've got all this offensive driving training. And apparently I scare the bejesus out of her when we drive. And I feel like I'm in this controlled manner. So I guess it's all about perspective, right?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. No, I love that though. I'm gonna have to tell her later about this whole thing because I'm sure she'll get a kick out of it. So with that, let's dive in. When you hear AI coming from different teams across the hospitals, and I think about the back office, think about clinicians, I think about even IT, everybody has a shiny object they want. what are they usually asking for though? Like, what are you seeing as the most common themes here?
Honestly, it's coming from everywhere. Like, which is why you're talking about it probably every show you're doing, right? It is coming so fast and so often. It is in everything. The sprawl is real. It started out with, oh, we're going to give it to our, we call them knowledge users, to help with Excel spreadsheets. We'll give them Copilot, to help them make emails and draft emails. And it blew into, we're going to start using it to look at equipment usage and scheduling. And we actually launched a program, I think about 6 to 8 months ago, which has been hugely successful. We have an AI call taker, and before everybody rolls their eyes, because I have called into these call taker machines before and been like, please give me a human. I hate it. I actually didn't know. I knew we had gone live with it. I didn't know we had gone live everywhere. And of course, when you work for a healthcare system, usually you get appointments within the healthcare system, right? I didn't know that when I called in, I had made my last 3 appointments with this AI. That's how real this one was. Like, I actually ended up asking. I was like, because usually you can tell, they got a little bit, it's just a little
Yeah.
uncanny value. But this time I was like, I had no idea. We call her Amy. That was Amy the last 2 times I called. I thought it hadn't gone live yet in that area. And so I was completely fooled. But so anyway, where's it coming from? So yeah, like I said, it started with office stuff. It started honestly with just end users just trying to attach everything to our O365 and business apps or whatever and say, yeah, I want Monday.com or whatever in my calendar. And we had to kind of nip that in the bud. And it's grown into, it's the strategy of the institution. We're moving forward. We're using it to save a lot of money for patients and to increase patient care. And almost every security assessment we're doing now has AI in it. Like, it's out of control.
Mhm. So when I think about Amy, I think about, hey, I'm calling in and I probably have to give some level of information to
Mhm.
Amy for her to help me get to what I'm trying to do. How are you kind of deciding what data or what vendors you guys use for something like an Amy? Like, is there some kind of compliance that you're looking for? Some kind of like, hey, we can only send this type of data over? Like, what does that look like?
So, from a healthcare perspective, that part hasn't changed. We have a bunch of regulations without putting everybody to sleep here around HIPAA, and in the state of Florida, there's state law stuff that actually hasn't changed. You still have to keep your data within the continental United States, and you have to vet them like you would any other or any other application. What has been interesting is there is not a framework or a regulation or a compliance around AI use itself um,
Mm.
in the healthcare industry or that I'm aware of in any industry. And so we've had to kind of make that up as we go. We started out with a combination of the OWASP. They had a really good formula. There's been some NIST recommendations, and we treat our security team as the front line. So when the project comes in and it gets through the security assessment, as soon as they check the box, we have AI, it goes off into a whole different questionnaire. And I know we all hate questionnaires. I'm sure your vendors are rolling their eyes at the questionnaire process, but until there's something better, that's what we have to do. And we ask a bunch of questions around like, what kind of models are you using? How are you training it? How are you making sure it's isolated? And we go through that whole process. Then we kick it off to an AI governance process to which cybersecurity is on, but we don't have a vote. We just have a veto because they figure by the time it's gotten through our process, our say is done. Then the AI goes through a ethical consideration. Is it actually useful? How does it impact the humans in the organization? How are the employees going to feel about it? There's a lot of sensitivity. Employees or team members are really scared that it's going to take their job. So it goes through this whole rigorous process.
That's fascinating to find out. And I have had folks I've talked to where they said, hey, if you mention AI, like it's immediately, hey, you're waiting 6 extra months because we have to go to governance. There's like 5 people, they're never in the office, like the usual kind of like you're taking forever. And so it's interesting to hear kind of all of those steps. Are there certain things that teams are looking for that are just like red flags that like, hey, this is a no-go situation if this comes in? Like, is it things that like, hey, if this replaces 20 of our staff, like we're not doing it? Or is it things that are just like what models they may be using on the back end or anything of that sort?
So so the red flags for my team, it won't even make it to AI governance if we start asking them about AI and they can't give us solid answers. So there was a
Mm.
vendor we were talking to recently, and we're like, tell us what models we're using. And they put Grok, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. I was like, hold on, like which one are you using? I was like, well, we don't know yet. I was like, get out of here. You're not even like this is not you failed, right? You're
All of them.
done. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
You just, well, we want to be able to use all of them. I was like, some of those don't even have like private tenant instances that you would even have. Like, you're just done. Like, you're out of the game. So those are some red flags there. It was a really interesting question you're focusing on, because I was just in an executive cabinet meeting about this. They are super sensitive to this, to the employee fear, right? So one of the things we actually do ask is this enhancing the team member's experience? Is it making their job easier, or is it to replace a team member? And the only time that last part is okay and replaces her can it augment staffing that we can't find, right? So with call takers is a great example. The call takers were originally very worried that, hey, this was going to come in and replace them. And what the executive team did a really good job of was they brought them on and said, hey, how would you like this to help you? Because it can do anything we wanted to do. So the team members actually designed kind of the initial training, the script. They actually helped train the AI on how to take the calls. The leadership actually did a really good job. They actually made an AI persona, like it's a printout, like a person. Like Amy has a look, like she's a person. And they put the cardboard cutout and they gave her a cubicle in the call taking area, right? And so they walk by and they give her little thank you notes, because she has taken off before Amy was deployed. Back up, before Amy was deployed, you might wait a very long time, or might even not even get someone on the phone right away when you're trying to, make a schedule a visit or call your doctor or figure something out. And so what Amy is allowed to do is take the initial easier calls, right? And just like, hey, I need to schedule this or I need to do that, and get it scheduled. And if there's an escalation process, or if something's not right, then it goes to the call taker. So we've lost no call takers. We haven't gotten rid of anyone. Matter of fact, they're still hiring call takers in the help center. But what it's let them do is they have reported to us that through anonymous surveys, like statistical relevant surveys, they actually feel more relieved and less stressed, because they know there's not 1,000 patients waiting on the line. Now when you call through, you get someone on the phone. It might be Amy at first, but it's somebody, as opposed to just ring, leave a message, we'll call you back. Because our callback statistics for anyone else in healthcare, we're not great, right? I don't know if you've ever tried to make an appointment and you call, and then maybe you get a call back a couple days, maybe not. Like, that's not a good feeling for a patient when you're waiting on stuff. So the employees absolutely love it. But that's a good use case, right? So getting the buy-in from the employee when we're going through the AI governance, actually checking that it's something that the employees will trust, because if they don't trust it, going back to trust issues, they're not going to use it. They're going to be susceptible to it, and it's going to defeat whatever efficiencies you're trying to gain.
It's super important. I mean, I have had numerous times, right? I'm calling for my daughter, I'm calling for myself, and they're like, we're experiencing longer than normal wait times.
Yeah.
Please wait 30 minutes. And if you leave your number, we'll call you back. And it's like, maybe, depending on when you go. And inevitably, you're going to call me when I am in the middle of something else and I can't take your call, and now I'm calling back. So I love that you guys look at that, because I do think it's so important. And I see all like, oh, we have to cost cut, we have to do this, we have to do that. But in the day, like, these are people, and I don't think AI is at the point where it's replacing people across the board for certain things, right? Like that. I mean, like, there's times where you're still going to need to talk to somebody. The amount of times that I call the pharmacy and I have to say, speak to pharmacist 8 times, because they're like, well, your refill isn't ready yet. And I'm like, I get it, but I need to know something else,
Yeah.
So very, very interesting to hear. I'd love to know kind of what your team, right, from the security side, what tools they're kind of thinking about for this. I have to imagine evaluating these tools in a questionnaire format gets monotonous, daunting, whatever you want to call it, and just kind of going, yeah, okay, cool, next, and going through. Like, are you guys looking at AI tools to even help you manage that process or other security pieces?
So from the intake perspective, no, there's nothing out there yet. There are some GRC, and if we want to put everybody to sleep, we can talk about GRC. But there are some GRC tools out there that are really good at just doing assessments in general and helping you, quantify risk. So you can take the data once you have it and kind of put it in there, but around the AI part, it doesn't do anything. Now, just so we're clear, when you're assessing risk, or from my perspective, when we're assessing risk from an AI perspective on an application, the actual, how do I phrase this? The actual risk hasn't changed. The threat landscape is the same. If you have overexposed files, you still have overexposed files. If you have user permission problems and you lack, least privileges, practices, or need to know practice, however you want to define in your industry. You're going to have that same problem with or without AI. The problem with AI, obviously, is just the scale at which it can happen and go wrong quickly, right? So it changes all that quantitative math about, annualized rate of occurrence and how quickly it's going to find things. So so you don't need AI to do the assessment because the questions are going to be answered kind of the same. It's just your risk calculations now you just have to shift the formula, right?
If you're just tuning in, this is We Have Trust Issues. I am Stephen Hajny, here with my guest, Jim Bowie, the CISO at Tampa General Hospital. So far, we've been talking about AI in terms of how Jim evaluates and kind of the process the hospital takes to evaluate AI and what he has seen so far. Jim, what is the biggest misconception you run into when people think AI is going to solve insert problem here?
The biggest misconception, and this we honestly just had this. We have these innovation sessions with team members, and where we get a bunch of people together and say, "Hey, let's try to solve this problem." And now the first thing out of everyone's mouth, because we had some really good programs that have been very effective, is let's just solve it with AI. Let's just hook AI into the patient record and have it do everything. And it's like that's not a thing that we're going to do right now. The What people don't understand, especially if they don't use AI heavily, is it's only got so much space to remember stuff, and it's juggling things, and they don't understand how it works. And it's really, I'm going to simplify it, and I'm sure an AI engineer would jump through the microphone at me, but it's really just a really good predictor, right? Like you just, more than meets the eye is the answer, right? Or do not, there is no try. Like it's just doing that on this really high mathematical scale. And so when you start overloading its context and start giving it too much information, it will absolutely forget. It will, bring in stuff it doesn't want to. Or if you ask it a question that it doesn't know the answer to, that's where you get a hallucination, because it's looking at a simplistic view. It's looking at a graph of answers. It's a multidimensional graph, basically, and it's just picking the closest point to whatever you asked it. So there's not a zero in there. It's not allowed to have a zero unless you've trained it differently. So what people don't understand is how fallible it can be. And on the flip side, there are people who are like, it's always wrong. It's like, no, it's got a use case. Like I'm not gonna use a katana to slice butter. It's just the right tool for the right process, right? I mean, I guess you could. That would be really interesting. But it's just there is an absolute use case for AI and machine learning, and there's not a use case for it, and people try to often square peg round hole it all the time, and then they don't like the results.
Next episode is going to be me talking about my trust issue of using katana with butter and how it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you. No, I mean, it's funny because having been in IT, even the amount of time that I have been, which hasn't been forever, right? It's been about 14, 15 years. I guess that is forever now when I think
forever.
about the
You're,
younger
you're classified
folk.
as
Yeah.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I have been. Maybe I am old now.
Yeah.
No, I think about how I just used it maybe like 3 months ago, and I asked it for a command, and I didn't even check it, right? I just ran. I'm like, I'm having this issue with TPM on my gaming PC, and I reformatted my entire hard drive. And I'm like, I should have known better. Like, I should have been like I should have known. Like that was a dumb thing to do. So I can see that, and I do see a lot of kind of folks just thinking, oh, AI will do this. So with that, have there been times where you've kind of had to say no, or the team has had to say no, or even the governance committee has kind of had to say, hey, let's like slow down a little bit on this adoption that we're doing for AI? Like maybe there's certain things that we're just like, that's not there yet for AI for us to be able to take on right now. Has there been a time that that's happened recently for you?
It happens every day, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just, and usually what will happen is it's a vendor trying to come in as one product. I'm going to make this up. So if there's anybody listening that's like, oh, I know what he's talking about, you don't, because it's literally made up. The vendor will come in and say, oh, we want you to use this cardiac monitoring software. It's going to be great. It's going to do all the things. You're going to get imaging. It's going to detect, I don't know, cockroaches in your heart valve better than any other application that's going to detect cockroaches in your heart valve. You're going to do great returns on it, right? And so like, okay, they want to use it, and so we go through our assessment, and they're like, no, we don't have AI. There's no AI. Oh, okay, all right, sure, okay, right. So let me get your documents, and we'll put it in the contract. Like, hey, you said there's no AI in this, and you can't put AI in it without telling us. And they're like, well, hold on. As soon as they get to the lawyers, there's actually a little AI. Well, let's talk about this little AI. Well, it's not really AI. we just take all the data and we de-identify it. It's fine, but we just kind of training. And I was like, so you want to take our data and train? Like that's 90% of the rejections are that right there. They're trying to get in as one thing, basically Trojan horse of AI, I guess if you want to call it that. They're trying to get in as one product, get our data, claim to de-identify it, and then train their own models and resell it somewhere else. That's the biggest no's we get. The other thing is if it is direct patient care, we're not there yet. Now, augmenting care is fine. Human in the loop is fine. But if it is like, we're going to take first crack at reading, it's not happening, but reading all the MRIs, right? And it's going to say, all right, now you need to check these MRIs. We're not going to, we've ruled out these other MRIs. They don't have, a broken toenail. So that's stuff we say absolutely no to, by the way, right now. Not that won't change, but.
Which is interesting. So when I think about that's like, hey, I'm trying to Trojan horse AI. But I feel like sometimes there might be the opposite as well. Not Trojan horsing necessarily, but saying, hey, this is AI. Are there times where you go, you're not really AI? That's either just like a basic ML thing, right? Or like that's just you got some telemetry data. Has there been tools that have kind of been like that as well, where you've had to kind of say, look, you don't need to go to the AI governance. You're not actually really AI.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll actually make sure that the operational partner that's purchasing it, that got sold the smoke and mirrors, will be like, look, man, you do you, but this is not AI. This is a bunch of if-then statements and some conditional programming. So yeah, it happens. That happens quite a bit. It's gotten better, I think, as IT has gotten smarter and more used to this. If you did a year or two ago, everything was AI. We have AI this, we have AI that. No, you don't really. You don't have generative AI, you have machine learning, right? You don't have really necessarily a neural network, or you're not using, it is maybe your data set or your policies came out of AI, but you're not actually in the loop at using AI. It's not decision making process. So that's gotten better in the last 6 months to a year, I would say. Originally, 2 or 3 years ago, everything was we have AI algorithms, we're doing all the AI and AI this, but I think I have actually chased vendors out of calls and just it canceled calls when they started talking like that before. So I think they've wisened up to that red herring or crying wolf or whatever you want to call that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's good to know. And I feel like it is still, every now and then I'll see it, right? Where they kind of think that they're doing AI and maybe they're not doing AI. And it's a challenge. That being said, are there some things that if you had to talk to another CISO who was like, hey, man, I have no idea about this AI stuff. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just hoping and praying that nobody's going to chat GPT. Like, what would you give some practical lessons to another CISO that you've learned from dealing with kind of AI in the hospital system?
On how to secure your environment from AI or how to ingest AI?
Could be both.
Okay. Securing from AI, I'll let you know when I figure it out because it's all over the place. We just got a product that can help us kind of identify shadow AI, and it it was I knew it was bad. I didn't know how bad it was to an order of magnitude level of just all the things that people are bringing into the environment that like your traditional Palo Alto or your Fortinet like inline decryption is not catching your app categorizations, whatever you want to call that. Because we have turned everything off at the edge. We allow certain things, certain users, obviously, but it's just in everything. And the more SaaS based you are, the more it's there, and you can't do anything about it because the contracts were written before AI. They're just putting it in, so you don't have any regular, have any contractual like, hey, you can't do that anymore. So you have to add it to new contracts. That's the first thing I tell that CISO is, hey, you need to right now address in your contract language whether or not there is or isn't AI and when they can add it and what they're doing with your data and who owns ownership of that data and what's happening. Like, because that needs to be in every contract now. That'll start helping in that scenario with those SaaS products. Old contracts will have to get revisited as they get revisited. The other thing I would tell the CISO is just assume it's there, but it's not as bad as it sounds. If you're practicing good hygiene, like if you had good hygiene before AI is not going to be terrible to you if it gets loose in your environment. If you've got, good user provisioning and good controls around what users have access to, like at the end of the day, these AI agents everyone wants to hook into, they're just users. They're just really fast at what they do, right? And they know instantly what they can and cannot get to. So If you're really good hygiene around that, if you have good hygiene around data protection, you're going to be okay. The problem is very few people do, right? So all the little secrets in our closets are getting exposed now, and you can't hide them anymore. Like if you have a section of your network attached storage or SharePoint that you just kind of forgotten about, AI is going to find it. It's going to find it right away. So you got to clean all that stuff up. And the time to do that was yesterday.
Agreed. I think that's always the tough part, right? Is like where to begin, and really, it is just yesterday is the ideal place for sure. Jim, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for sharing some practical insights here and talking us through kind of how you evaluate AI, but also I love still the idea of like, hey, we're not looking to replace people's jobs. We're trying to help enable them to be better, right? And have things better that will help them with their kind of, I'll say, quality of life. You could even say from an employee standpoint, right? Not making them so stressed out by not being able to answer phones and stuff like that. If you want to connect with Jim, you can find him on LinkedIn. And for listeners, Zscaler will also be out at Vive and HIMSS. You can find info about our presence in the show description. If you are attending, come find us. I will personally be at HIMSS, walking around doing my thing, telling bad dad jokes. So our speaking sessions, and learn more about what Zscaler is doing specifically in the realm of AI security, including how we think about protecting data, reducing risk, and enabling innovation without losing control. You can learn more about our show on the program page at healthcarenowradio.com or at zscaler.com/healthcare. Please connect with Tamara and I on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear your feedback on what trust issue is top of mind for you. Until next time, think like a fighter pilot and defend like a black belt.